Abraham, is David home? David? Samuel home? It's the year of Jubilee. It's the year of Jubilee. The Jubilee has been here for 90 years. Jacob. When a Jehovah's Witness comes to your home and you agree to a free home Bible study, one of the first things that they will teach you, or their student, is that they should reject a particular practice because of its origins. And so they will convince their student, or possibly you, that you should no longer wear a piece of jewelry like the cross because it has its origins in paganism, or that the Trinity is not true because of the supposed origins of the Trinity, or that you should not celebrate or practice a holiday. Flag Day, sorry. Birthdays, sorry. Christmas, no way. That is paganism. But the problem with Jehovah's Witnesses is that they are hypocrites. They are inconsistent. And I hope if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this that you will really consider, before you start typing angrily at me, oh, you're being so mean, you're calling us hypocrites, but really look at the things that you teach others and the things that others, like myself, try to explain to you, and look at your reaction. If you try to show a Jehovah's Witness that there are many false prophecies since the origins of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, if you show them flip-flop doctrines that shows that the light doesn't get brighter, but it's flickering and it's pointing in different directions, or cover-ups of, say, child molestation, they will respond by saying, well, men make mistakes. If you tell them that once upon a time ago, Russell taught that Christ's presence began in 1874, or that once upon a time ago, Judge Rutherford taught that Old Testament princes and prophets were going to come back and live in San Diego, they will respond by saying, men make mistakes. You can throw as much dirt as you want on the organization. That doesn't mean that it's not God's organization, because they're working off the presupposition that God has an organization and that God's organization is the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. So Jehovah's Witnesses are actually hypocrites because they come to your home and they tell you to reject something that you do because of its origins, yet when you try to show them their origins or their history, that same standard does not apply. The book Salvation, published in 1939 on page 311, talks about Beth Sarim, or Beth Sarim, however you pronounce it, and says that the purpose of acquiring the property and building the house was that there might be some tangible proof that there are those on earth today who fully believe God in Christ Jesus and in His kingdom, and who believe that the faithful men of old will soon be resurrected by the Lord, be back on earth, and take charge of the visible affairs of earth. So this house here is supposed to be a tangible proof that there were those who believed Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were going to come back and live here. Tangible proof, and instead it is tangible proof to the false prophecies of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, and specifically Judge Rutherford at that time. The quote continues, while the unbelievers have mocked concerning it and spoken contemptuously of it, yet it stands there as a testimony to Jehovah's name, and if and when the princes do return and some of them occupy the property, such will be a confirmation of the faith and hope that induced the building of Beth Sarim. And so this is supposed to be a confirmation. This is supposed to put the mockers to shame, because there was mockers at that time. And I don't think that I'm a mocker. I'm doing this because I love Jehovah's Witnesses and I want them to come to know the truth, not only in Jesus Christ. From Millions Now Living Will Never Die, written by J.F. Rutherford, he said about this house, the chief thing to be restored is the human race to life. And since other scriptures definitely fix the fact that there will be a resurrection of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and other faithful ones of old, and that these will have the first favor, we may expect 1925 to witness the return of these faithful men of Israel from the condition of death, being resurrected and fully restored to perfect humanity and made the legal representatives of the new order of things on earth. And it continues, as we have stated, the great Jubilee cycle is due to begin in 1925. At that time, the earthly phase of the kingdom shall be recognized. They are to be resurrected as perfect men and constitute the princes or rulers in the earth according to his promise. I'm not going to get into all the details of Beth Sarim. I already did a video on that a couple years ago. The point of this video is that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society has a history of false prophecies, has a history of changed doctrines, and when you bring this up to a Jehovah's Witness, they step back and say, no. That doesn't apply to us. We can go to somebody's door and convince them to not celebrate Christmas, to not celebrate birthdays. We can tell them, based on the supposed pagan origins of these things, and we can teach people not to believe in the Trinity because of its origins. But when it comes to our organization, the light gets brighter and brighter. When it comes to our organization, Jehovah is going to work things out in due time, and Jehovah is just giving us our meat in due season. And this right here is inconsistent, and it's hypocritical. And it's hypocritical because you go and you tell other people why they should reject things based on a standard that you yourself don't even keep. I tried to tell somebody on my YouTube channel about certain things, and they responded with, it doesn't matter what kind of dirt you throw at the organization because it's still God's organization. And this person in the same breath told me that I should reject pagan practices and mixing true religion with pagan practices such as Christmas and the Trinity, and that true worshipers of Jehovah do not practice these things. And so this person right here they're being inconsistent. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, they tell me this all the time. Time to make a video. In the Harp of God by J.F. Rutherford, printed in 1921, on page 340, it said that the faithful men, referring to the Old Testament princes, were going to return in a few years. Well, 8 years later, another edition of the Harp of God was printed, and on page 346, it reads about these faithful men that they should be expected on earth, not in a few years, but at the inauguration of the new covenant. And this is just one of many little changes to make the Watchtower look better. And so, if we look at the origins of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, the evidence that we see is that God is not guiding this organization. That Jesus, why would he choose this organization when they were teaching things that were not only pagan, but false, and then they continued to false prophesy and set dates. And if I just look at the Watchtower standards of things and I say, okay, well, let me listen to the Watchtower. The Watchtower is always telling me to look at the roots of something, always telling me to look at the origins, and if it's not derived in the Bible, then I should reject it. So as you've noticed, I have not used any apostate literature. I have used the Watchtower's own literature, because the Watchtower's own literature and the Watchtower's own standard condemns that religion, condemns the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. But if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this, or you've been studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses, then please take advice from your own literature. From what does the Bible really teach, chapter 16. Take your stand for true worship. Suppose you found out that your whole neighborhood has been contaminated. Someone has secretly been dumping poisonous waste in your area, and now the situation is life-threatening. What would you do? No doubt you would move away if you could, but after doing that, you would still face the serious question, have I been poisoned? And that is my question for Jehovah's Witnesses and those who are studying with them today. Have you been poisoned? Have you been poisoned by an organization that claims to be true worshipers of God, that claims to have the correct interpretation of the Bible, but its origins are in false prophecy, changed doctrines? And it continues. A similar situation arises with regard to false religion. The Bible teaches that such worship is contaminated with unclean teachings and practices. And this right here is in what does the Bible really teach? But when I read this, I see the watchtower. That is why it's important for you to get out of Babylon the Great, the world empire of false religion. Have you done this? If so, you are to be commended. But more is involved than just separating yourself or resigning from a false religion. Afterward, you must ask yourself, do any traces of false worship remain in me? And then, of course, they take this and they apply it to crosses and other things with pagan origins. But if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this, please apply this to your own organization. Because your own organization is rooted in lies and deception. Judge Rutherford lied. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are not here. I hope this video finds you well. The Harp of God. Ah! We don't got no pagan origins.